When in the 80s, when I was serving in the military for 2 years, in 1985, 1987, it is coincided with the Glasnost, perestroika. It coincided with Russians all of a sudden, Russians here, and I'm generalizing, people of Soviet Union, that includes all the different nationalities, were exposed to a massive dosage of what was sat in the archives completely as classified information. If prior to that, only fractions of that, if you think that the voice of Free Europe, like the Svobodna Europa, BBC's World Service, right? Голос America, Voice of America, if you think that they were educating people of Soviet Union about the state of affairs of its own country, it was nothing in comparison to what came to light of the people of Soviet Union in, I would say, very, very compactedly short period of time. It's not when Nikita Khrushchev brings some facts about Stalin's life and Stalin cult of personality for people to kind of like have a wake-up call, right? No. All prime windows of publications in Soviet Union, within that time when I was in the military, and we were waiting each weekly journal called Aganyok, Spark, something like that, Spark, if you translate it, which prior to that was a complete and utter propaganda ridden sort of platform for all the party, Communist Party perspectives, suddenly starts to publish documents with regard to what was happening all these years, all this unleashing. People went to, it was a national, on par with, I don't know, it's like some people went from denial to euphoria. Some people went to almost states of close to losing it, because some people's lives was torn apart. Especially for me, I was still in my prime. I was like early 20s. To me, it was exhilarating time to learn all this. But for people who have been already exposed to this all their life, let's say in the whatever more senior age, all that information was a confirmation somehow that they wasted their life, that their ideals were crushed. Their ideals were crushed literally, right? We know that the statues were crushed, right? All that, the literally the epitome and the symbology was discarded, dismantled, destroyed, broken down. People found themselves in a very painful condition. But those who were spiritually oriented, this was the time of a greater, it was like literally exponentially people grew in their consciousness because there were less pockets left of that what remained in the unconscious. So let me conclude this response. Anything that due to the states of interest of national security, let me put it this way, anything that under the guise of national security is also the greatest filter for fullness of information. And that in itself acts upon the unconscious. So collective unconscious is being stated without any possibility for shedding any light into that, because the filters strongly guarding that collective consensus. So the unconscious on the collective level is not given the chance to get exposed. Sliver here, sliver there. You know what I've learned recently? That all major organizations, such as CIA and FBI, have been closely working with Hollywood, like this working. I mean, maybe some of you know about this. I was, for example, really amazed at finding out that some of the classics of our time now, that already stood the test of time, were in fact an art form of propaganda. Not that art never was used for propaganda. Of course it was used. Used by Chinese and Russians, by Germans. Goebbels said, with the advent of cinema, I don't need to now any printed word. Everything will be done through cinema. But it's more sinister than that, because collective consciousness of individuals is formed through the films that we watched together and loved and admired. They leave a sediment in our psyche. So if this was a pure expression of artists, even if they were biased, even if they veered towards certain interpretation, but when that becomes a ideological propaganda which subtly aims to manipulate your point of view, then that is not good. That is not good at all. Try to understand why that is not good. Because it's not true. It's not based on true experience. This is the difference between relative truth and an obvious lie. Do you see the difference between something which being short of ultimate truth and being a lie? You need to know the difference. Something which is invention to manipulate and mastermind and do something in order to create a certain solidly shared collective consensus, which goes at all lengths. So the works of art are created, even those that are, let's say, in the form of a comedy, in the form of a critical perspective, because in the movie, the president is shown as bad, stupid, idiot, or like he just doesn't know what's happening. And we think, well, great, that's like, it's a really a counter perspective. No, not at all. It only seduces even more because it gives you an alternative perspective, winning your trust, because it shows you, that indeed that, So this is what it means today to rise into your own sovereignty. So that second aspect here that vasanas represent, you should always be veering towards the Solomon's idea of what is what. Here, 2 points of view and weight in your heart. And your heart will lie you until it will no longer lie. Because when this quality aforementioned now more often, since I'm taking advantage to use it again, that pratibha, that intuitive insight, whenever it is illumines something, it gets stronger, because then connection is created, where we no longer live at the polarized perspective of what mind tells us, because mind constantly fluctuates, whereas pratibha belongs to the pure quality of the intellect. Therefore it is given that flash of a lightning like. We simply know, there's no reason behind it. The quality of pratibha is not like, what makes you think so? I'm sorry, my heart knows. As a woman, you should know what I'm talking about now. When you know something from the level of the heart, when it comes to people who are very close to you, nobody can fool you around, because you are the mother, because you are the wife. And the woman always knows because of the very heightened intuition, unless she's cut off from her connection to this, which is inborn. It's a gift of nature. In the male body, this needs to be fostered. So women can take this for granted to a degree. But in a spiritual unfoldment, that intuitive insight can become as a reality check to anything that you may experience as doubts, insecurities, concerns. Then you go into that heart and you find out. Because it cannot lie. The path already established, the connection is already established. So it always fires with that. And that's what the quality of that pratibha is. The quality that illumines it all. So I think I will leave this now at this point, because I think it may be enough for the time being on that particular. Thank you.